Hi, my name is Chris Peach, and I'm professor of computer science here at Stanford University. And today, I'm going to be answering some hot takes on artificial intelligence. I keep hearing people talk about AI. Do they mean ChatGPT? I'm way too afraid to ask at this point. That's a good question. When people refer to AI, they could mean a whole bunch of algorithms that are generally acting in an intelligent way. Basically, any program that does something smart could be called AI. Now, in 2025, a lot of time that people talk about AI, they're referring to this big breakthrough we've had recently in large language models. So Chris, the CEO of Anthropic, just made a comment saying that 90% of code in the next 6 months is going to be written by AI. What's the point of learning computer science if AI can code? I love that question. In fact, now more than ever, it is the time to learn how to program. As you know, AI has become kind of a big deal, and it's going to be part of a lot of our futures. What you might not know is that while AI seems to be able to speak English pretty well, its mother tongue is programming. So if you learn how to code, you can speak the mother tongue of these artificial intelligence models. What that really means in practice, though, is that you're going to be able to build more wonderful things with a little bit less training than ever before. I'll tell you a quick story, which is this Christmas, I took some time to just program something that normally would have taken me about 6 months. And in the space of a week, I can make this whole project. By far, the most fun time ever to learn to program. And it's really fun because of this artificial intelligence. You can also learn to code because you want to understand the artificial intelligence better, and you want to be able to use it in its mother tongue. Hey Chris, I've heard there's a lot of different programming languages. You teach in this language called Python. Why should I learn that one? You know, the truth is, it doesn't matter what language you learn. They're all amazing, and they all have the same principles underneath. And if you come to my class, I'm not just going to teach you Python. I'm going to teach you that foundation of computer science knowledge that would allow you to understand Python, to understand other languages like C++, Java, you name it. Now, Python's my favorite. It's one of the most popular languages in the world right now. It's the language used for artificial intelligence. A lot of people who are making games will be writing a lot of their code in Python. For movies, when I worked at Pixar, a lot of our code would also be in Python. But there's another reason. It's the one that you should learn when you're learning. It is so pedagogical. It exposes the most important concepts without making things too complicated. I love Python. Why does everyone need to learn coding? You know, I wouldn't say that everyone needs to learn coding, but it's one of those beautiful things that we all benefit from. If you're younger, it turns out if you learn coding, you tend to do better in your other classes because it's giving you a new way to think. The oldest student I've ever taught who's completed my course was 89 years old, and that student was really interested in pushing their mind and to solve interesting puzzles. Of course, I teach at Stanford, a lot of students who are starting their careers. There's a million great reasons to learn to program, and they're all valid and they're all wonderful. I must say, I've enjoyed a career in coding, but I also just really appreciate the deep beauty that I've been exposed to by learning to think in this other way. Well, that answer kind of builds into this next question. I wish I could understand this stuff, but it's too late. I'm 60 years old and I barely remember division. Look, the truth is, there is this kind of myth that you can be too old to learn to program, but that's absolutely not true. And I'll tell you a secret. So in Code in Place, we've now taught about 40,000 students, and we've seen people be successful from every walk of life. And there's this interesting correlation. Every year you are older, you're predicted to complete more of the course. I would say not only can you never be too old to learn to code, but it's something that you might thrive in. I'd say that you might find the puzzles especially wonderful. The next question that one of the students asks, hey, I have access to an AI and I can ask questions to it and it can sometimes teach me. What's the benefit now of having a human teacher? It's such a wonderful question. I'm in the AI lab. You'd imagine when I made a course, it would just be only AI. But actually, I just love teaching. I love seeing students be successful. And in my decades of experience, I've learned that there's no replacement for that human touch. When we made Code in Place, it was all centered around this idea of let's get as many people as we can to play the role of teacher. As you might know, Code in Place, each class has about 1,000 teachers, which is an incredibly large number of people in the community who care about you learning. And those people are fantastic. They're inspiring. They know it's hard. They can be patient with you. And you know, statistically, it's one of the reasons that we see about 10 times more people able to learn this material than in courses that are just supported by AI. I want to learn how to make websites. When can I do this? And what should my path look like? There's a lot of different types of websites, but the most interesting ones are the ones that are deeply interactive. You know, think about Instagram or Google, a lot of these websites where maybe the user can add some information and it does something wonderful. If you want to write those sorts of websites, you're going to be programming. There's a lot of languages you can write to write those websites. One of the most popular ones is JavaScript. I write websites all the time. Along with a wonderful team, we've created this Code in Place website, which has like an IDE and lessons, discussion forums. Now, we got really good at the basics of programming. We learned all the fundamentals, and we did that in Python because Python is just such a beautiful language for learning those fundamentals. Once you have those fundamentals in Python, you'll be ready to apply it to different things. You could work at Pixar and make movies. You could make websites. You could make mobile applications. You know, all these different abilities to create live on top of this fundamental understanding. That's what we focus on. What's an IDE? If you're going to write an essay, you have to open up something like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, and there's an application where you write those essays. When you want to write a program, there's also a place where you write your program. It's called an IDE, and there's several popular ones, and Code in Place has one of the more powerful IDEs for learning out there. Why does code work one day and another day it breaks? You know, especially in this time of artificial intelligence, it's really a goal of mine that you learn how to make programs that are robust and they just always work. When a person opens it up, it does what you want it to do. You may have known that AI can now start to write some programs if you give it a prompt. But what you might not know is that a lot of times the programs it gives you is not exactly what you want, or it breaks in some way. And so being able to speak this language is essential if you want to program with artificial intelligence. So if you learn those fundamentals, you'll be in such a great place to make code that is just wonderful and you can share with your loved ones. Should I be nice to ChatGPT just in case AI rebels against humans? One of the classes I teach at Stanford is the math that underlies this modern artificial intelligence that we're interacting with. And as somebody who knows the core ideas behind the artificial intelligence, it's really easy for me to see how it's working. And when you see how it's working, you realize that it doesn't have a lot of these human-like qualities. I really don't think large language models are about to rebel against humans. But I think you should be nice. Shouldn't you just be nice in any case? I feel like it's good practice. If you're nice to your ChatGPT, you're more likely to be nice to your friends and your loved ones. And it's just a good practice. But on a more serious note, to me, AI is an incredible tool. It's like I have this most wonderful hammer. And with this most wonderful hammer, I can create in ways I could have never created before. But it's just that. It's a tool. And if you learn how to code, you can learn how to properly use this tool. Okay, thank you guys so much for all your wonderful questions. You know, I love questions. You're expressing your curiosity of the unknown, and that curiosity is what makes you that great learner. So please do come learn with us in Code in Place.